Addendum videos are mostly rants. They only have one frame, which has no other graphics aside from the outro and the intro, and because of this, they're not something you're really gonna want to watch. Because of this, I would rather recommend you listen to them so that you can hear what I have to say. And because of the ranty nature of it, just put it on the background and listen to the addendum. Most of it concerns response videos or arguments I want to address or mistakes I've made concerning versus videos. Because of the nature of this video in particular, it will be a little longer than probably other addendum videos that will come in the future. I hope you enjoy. What's up, guys? It's me, Zilla, and you know what? I just came across a video that I just feel so offended by. Hate it when people do response videos to me. No, I'm just kidding. What's up, guys? This is gonna be a re-response slash addendum to my Gorosaurus versus Zilla video. The response video that I'm gonna be talking about is from Kaiju Zilla, not Kaiju 621, just Kaiju Zilla or Kaiju Zilla 98 on Instagram. And I'm going to be addressing some of his points. I'm going to be doing addendums to some of my points that he points out and kind of just going over some errors and miscalculations and explanations that I didn't go over in my video and are talked about in his video that I should probably explain to my fans and still defend some of my own points in the process. This is going to be a really edited out video. I think what I'm going to do for these videos is if people do responses or I see long comment threads in these videos, I will do these smaller addendum videos to sort of address them. And so my points can kind of just come out a little more naturally instead of scripted and just kind of be real with you guys, in my opinion. I think that's the best thing I can do. And well, without further ado, let's just begin then. First off, one of the things Kajuzilla addressed was the title. I just put the title as Gorosaurus versus Zilla and not Gorosaurus Showa Composite versus Zilla something composite. The main reason why I didn't put composite in the title was mostly because that I wanted the title to sound easier, make it get clicks, sort of just make it so that it was more accessible to viewers. And I don't do a lot of research on how the algorithm works, stuff of the sort. So when I'm doing these versus videos, if I say if I'm maybe using composite characters, I mentioned in my rules that I would have to state when there's a composite character, which I'm not going to say outside on the title. I'll just explain it in the video, which I probably should have done a little bit better in the video to explain how I would have done the composites. But other than that, that's the first thing I want to address about the title. So that's that. Title, just it's just the kaiju's name, no composites, none of the sort. Got that sorted out. I mean, even ironically enough, I think he did the same thing. He put Showa composite versus 98 composite in his own video. That's I think he changed that to make it easier, and that was kind of the same thing I was going through because I was thinking write composite, don't write composite, stuff like that. But that's neither here nor there. First big point is that Godzilla 98, Godzilla series, Godzilla, and Zilla are all different kaiju, and therefore should not be all taken into account. This is something I always go back and forth with people who talk about Godzilla 98. The only reason why Godzilla 98 and Godzilla series still have the name Godzilla is because legally you cannot change copyrights of that nature. So, because it was copyrighted as Godzilla, it can technically no longer be changed to anything else other than the original copyright. So even if there was reasons why they changed characters' names, there is no actual way to retroactively change old copyrights. So the copyright will always stay as Godzilla, even though the intention was to create a new kaiju out of the design and the character. So that is why I used the 98 Godzilla, the Godzilla series Godzilla, and Zilla for that reason is because technically they are supposed to all be the same character to a degree, even though copyright would say they aren't. If that makes any sense, I might need to do a video about that, explaining how that copyright situation works. But that is the main reason that I wanted to do that. Concerning other things I want to get off the bat that I got wrong. I think there was some sizings I got wrong. A lot of the sizings I got specifically just from sites as well as reference books. So I took the stats and then I presented them in the video. However, since in the case with Godzilla 98 / Zilla, I was juggling around a bunch of numbers for all the kaiju, it would it just felt like overall having to explain all of those videos there, like all the sizes, would have taken a little bit too much time, and I wouldn't have gone on to explain more in the video, which ended up being the case, sadly, because I had started the video. I should get this out of the way as well. I started the video, I didn't get to finish the video, and then it was about a week or two afterwards I got back to doing the video. So I didn't really go back over and look at some of the choices I made at the start and see if I'd explained things properly, which I ended up not explaining properly, which is on me. And I plan to change that in the future to make sure I don't start videos and then wait like 2 or 3 weeks before I get back to working on them, because of course, time, outside stuff like that. So that's on me for not properly stating sizes and just kind of copying pasting sizes and not retroactively like examining them and being critical of them, especially when I'm working with composites. I need to do that in the future. As for weights, I know he mentioned that I didn't use the highest weight for Godzilla 98, which was the Godzilla series weight. I explained that I didn't find the weight to be accurate, even though it's an official stat, while I used the 98 stat. That was the thing, was that I kind of, once again, that was the nature of using composites, was that I was either going to have to make an upgraded Gorosaurus weight that would have been in keeping with his rules of their size, which I was in no particular vein to do, and I didn't feel like I would have done it any justice. So I didn't do that, and then I didn't really properly explain the weight that I would have chosen for Zilla, even though, once again, not official stats, but also composites. It was a whole big mess in that case. So what I should have done was I should have had Gorosaurus fighting each and every one of the characters and properly explain that. But that's neither here nor there. Another thing, feats. I want to talk about feats. When it comes to bite force for Gorosaurus, not only has Gorosaurus made opponents bleed in the case of Ghidorah, we bit down on Ghidorah's tail is bleeding. Kaiju Zilla said that Ghidorah wasn't bleeding when Gorosaurus bit him. However, he did after he knocked down Ghidorah the second time. And it was very similar to Anguirus in that case. Another one is when I was talking about how Gorosaurus could KO Zilla. It wasn't a matter of KOing, it was a matter of being able to knock him down long enough so that Gorosaurus could get enough hits and to probably claim a kill. But I will get into that later, because that's going to be concerning why I use certain feats the way I did. Sidewinder missiles. The reason why I don't consider the Sidewinder feat that good of a feat is because if he was dodging Sidewinders that were locked onto him, that would have probably held more weight. And considering the fact that even when Godzilla 98 was trapped within the tension wires, he could have lowered his body. And since they would have had since their lock was, the whole locking onto the Sidewinder missiles is inconsistent throughout 98. So there's that. But in the case of dodging Sidewinder missiles, they weren't locked on in the first place. So he could have moved in almost any direction and those missiles would have missed him. So that's neither here nor there. The hypersonic Godzilla Rulers of Earth feat, I dispute that, because that scene, he says that he regularly, Kaiju in the video states that the feat was that Zilla could dodge hypersonic attacks from Godzilla's atomic breath. The only time Godzilla used his atomic breath was once, and it was after he bites down on Zilla's tail, flings him into the buildings, and then he uses atomic breath, and then Godzilla looks over and sees that there's nothing there, which is when Zilla pops out of the ground after burrowing under the ground. And he originally says that art in comics isn't consistent, so running by that logic, we can state that there's no way to obviously prove that without a shadow of a doubt Zilla was able to dodge that and therefore have a hypersonic feat. But that would also mean that all the other feats would have to be taken into question as well because of their comic art. However, I am more likely to say that Zilla didn't dodge that and it wasn't a hypersonic feat because of being knocked into the debris and him starting to dig, and then Godzilla firing his atomic breath and seeing there was nothing there is more likely considering how the art plays out. Compared to a more direct hypersonic showing is with Space Godzilla, because Godzilla shoots his atomic breath at Space Godzilla once, and then Space Godzilla uses his barrier to block the attack and shoot it right back at Godzilla. That is clearly hypersonic because even if you could say, oh, Space Godzilla predicted Godzilla would shoot again, it still showed that he was able to pull up a barrier in time that was quicker than a hypersonic attack. Unlike in the case of Zilla, where he was not only thrown, giving him opportunity to burrow before Godzilla charged up and shot his atomic breath. And if we want to talk about the Megaguirus scene, where he says that there's no showing of movement there, it already shows that Gorosaurus had already kicked. Based on the art, it looks like his legs haven't kicked out all the way yet. However, it's clearly shown that Gorosaurus is kicking and then knocks Megaguirus out of the air. And it's only 3 panels. However, the argument I've always had about it was that even if Megaguirus wasn't moving, Megaguirus still has more directional dodging than any land-based monster can. So because of that, it's more likely that Megaguirus could have dodged even if she was moving at a much slower speed. And we can't really conclude exactly what speed she was moving at, but seeing as how Megaguirus casually is flying at a relatively high speed, it's still an impressive feat nonetheless. As for attack output, both monsters have been shown to rip apart trilopods pretty easily, so that's their baseline. Zilla was able to scratch up Godzilla a little bit, but Godzilla was able to do the same to him and almost killed him after he was about to choke Godzilla and blast his head off. As for the fact that Gorosaurus was knocked out by a Gorosaurus trilopod, in the panel you see there's more than just 2 trilopods. There's trilopods in the back that aren't colored in, but their silhouette is shown, and then you see the ones that are up front. So clearly Gorosaurus was fighting way more trilopods than Kaiju Zilla says there are, which is we don't really know how long that battle took place for, but we only see the end of the battle, as that whole sequence was the trilopods collecting the monsters so that they would have all this DNA and the final battle would commence. And even outside, I would say that the only time we see Gorosaurus and Zilla fighting on their own to a degree is at the end when they're all fighting the trilopods. And we see both Zilla and Gorosaurus tearing apart trilopods pretty easily, and since trilopods all have the same base power, you can't really say that, oh, he was fighting a stronger trilopod or this or that. But I think what I want to conclude about when it comes to the rules of Earth feats is that if you're going to say the comic art is inconsistent, then all feats from comics would have to be taken into question. However, if there's sufficient information there that would show something, in the case with Zilla, after being thrown, he was able to dig quick enough before Godzilla even fired his atomic breath, so I don't consider it a hypersonic feat. While in the case of Megaguirus already been kicked, and we don't see Megaguirus surprised or caught off guard or anything, which is why I consider the feat from Gorosaurus to be more valid than Zilla's feat. However, if we're just going to take them both at their value and at a high ball, then Zilla has dodged something hypersonic while Gorosaurus was able to react quick enough, get back on his feet, and then kick something out of the air that moves incredibly fast. As for the calculation input, that's on me a lot. I wish I had done more calculations for that. That came down to the fact that when I was doing a lot of the calculations, I was using the old Gorosaurus weight, and since I didn't want to do a composite weight, I wasn't sure what a highballed weight's output would have been, especially with the speed and all that. And since Kaiju Zilla says that the that Zilla's combat speed is hypersonic, which I don't agree with in the slightest, it would be that Zilla would still have more damage output, but that's also because of the fact that Zilla is able to move over greater distances. And seeing is that in most cases, Zilla has been shown to charge in some cases, but in most cases, if he's fighting at close range, he's not going to run around and then try to come back and charge a monster until he's thrown out there, which was shown in the Rules of Earth fight with Godzilla, where after Zilla had decent range from Godzilla was when he decided to charge in. And that could be the case that he could knock down Gorosaurus. I don't think he'd KO Gorosaurus, but it could go either way. As for the verdict, I wanted to do a best out of 5 scenario with the verdicts, and I didn't properly. The end of the script, I kind of went off script at the end of it, so I didn't really get to properly explain how I thought the fight would go down. And I said that the fight would be 3-2. And once again, that was down to me taking composite elements from all of the monsters and kind of just conjoining them together into these best of 5. What I should have done was done a best of 5 against 98, best of 5 against Godzilla series, and a best of 5 against Rules of Earth Zilla. And if I was to do that right now, I would say that Gorosaurus takes it 5-0 against 98 because of durability. Even with speed, I'd still say Gorosaurus is more durable, and because of that, I think he would still get the win in that case. Against Godzilla series Godzilla, I'd say could go either way at the end of it. However, there's a chance Godzilla 98 would come out on top for the win. And then if we're talking about Rules of Earth Gorosaurus against Rules of Earth Zilla, then I would still have to say that I do believe that only taking Rules of Earth into account, Gorosaurus would still win. I still stand by that. But if we're talking about like official Showa Gorosaurus with Rules of Earth feats against Zilla Rules of Earth, there's a chance I would have to concede and say that Zilla would win. However, that was the nature of using composites when I probably should have explained it longer, and then the video would have just gotten a lot longer. And seeing as how once again I had stopped working on that video and then gone back to it, I didn't really plan that out properly. So that's why for Gigan versus Zigra, I'm getting all the clips now. All of the the graphics are already finished. So all I have to do is write the script for Gigan versus Zigra right now because I'm just collecting the information. So that's going to go easier, and I'm not going to be doing composites. It's just going to be Showa Gigan versus Showa Zigra. And the only real composite element will be including Gigan's flamethrower and his laser beam, which I'll be adding as a caveat of sorts, which I'll explain in that video, but that's going to be less composite-y than this video. But that's it. I'm happy if you've made it all the way to the end of this video. It's been like 17 minutes of me just kind of rambling, talking about it. I'm going to do these addendums from now on like this. These are all rambly, ranty kind of sort of things, I guess. This is not scripted at all except for small notes here and there. But yeah, I want to apologize for not really making a lot of things clear about the composites in the original video and messing up some calculations and just not working on and not like really sticking to working on the video despite my schedule. I should have really pushed school stuff out of the way to finish the video and just get it out there because it would have been a better product despite it being it's the most viewed video of my recent videos, so I'm happy for that, but I should have just stuck with it throughout, even if I had that school stuff to do, and just got the video out. But that's it, guys. Talk to you later. I will have a new outro hopefully by the end of this week. I'm going to be trying to get that outro out. But that's it, guys. See ya.